So I'm going to tell you a little story just because there's only one way I can share. So it was about many years ago. I can't remember how many years ago, but I was in the shower and I used to have this experience with my guides who I have met with and spoke with every day since my early 20s. For those that don't know, I am an intuitive who works with the Akashic records to channel not only healing energy, but the wisdom that helps us complete our soul's contracts and allows us to awaken, expand, and heal by the power of love. And so I was in the shower in my parents' house where I used to live with both of them. And I used to get told very revelatory information in the shower because water grounds you. And so I was in the shower and I met with my main guide, Melchizedek, who, wasn't in the shower, but, we got to distinguish dimensional differences. And when I was with Melchizedek, I actually felt the presence of death, which is something that I know very well. I helped my mother, my father, my grandmother all leave their bodies at their deathbed. And so I know the energy of death. I know it extremely well. I have said over the years that I live in the doorway of death, that awakening is when you find death before death finds you. And so when Melchizedek was, gave me this message when I was in the shower at my parents' house many years ago, and I felt the presence of death. The message was, in 5 years, your father will pass, and 2 years after that, your mom will join him in heaven. And we're telling this to you so you can process their death right now. So in the shower, my parents are in the living room watching People's Court at volume level 75,000. I completely broke down and processed their death right there. Wow. And for the next 5 years, I had the opportunity to experience my parents not as people I was afraid to lose, but whose death I had already processed. And they didn't change. I had changed. And it was some of the 5 best years of our time together. We had healed so many things and had these spontaneous conversations that when it was time for my dad to pass, I was at peace with it. Of course, we were more at peace when my mom passed because they had never been separated for more than a day or so. So this message, I've had this experience, and then I'm telling you this because recently we went through the Lionsgate portal, like 8/12 or whatever the date was. And I'm in the shower, present day. My main guide shows up, Melchizedek, and here is death. And I go, oh, I know this drill. And I said, whose death am I being invited to process? I started going through a list of people on my mind, like, is there anyone who might be like transitioning? And then they said, the death we're inviting you to process is your own. And I cannot describe what happened to me in that moment of being in the shower, but it was the exact same feeling of being told my father's going to pass. It was the exact same feeling of death being with me. My relationship with death is that death is a long lost friend.
Wow.
It's a game of tag we're playing. And the smile I give death was, you found me, didn't you? Wow, this has been such a subtle game of tag, and you found me, dear friend. And I was shown a vision of all the things that I have envisioned for my life over the next 20 years. I have so many goals of things I want to accomplish in my career and as extensions of my career. And I was told directly, you have 3 years to live.
Wow.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I can't describe why. But there was something in my heart that knew. And it was like I immediately envisioned what I had planned for my life over the next 20 years. Like it was a beautiful painting, like a mandala that I then in the vision walked down to the ocean and I set it in the water and I waved goodbye to what I thought my life could be over the next 20 years. Wow. And I'm not here to say that in the next 3 years, that's literally going to happen. But I've been placed into a position with the universe where I'm being asked to live as if I have 3 years to live. And wow. That has put me on such a threshold. That has put me on such an edge. Not only to take the greatest care of my body while I'm here, But when you're given a message like that, it's incredible the things that begin to matter, and it's extraordinary the things that stop mattering.
Hmm.
And what's interesting for me, because I've been just aware of this process and watching it the entire time, I'm certainly not going to jump to a conclusion and say something when I really don't know. As an intuitive, the interesting part of my journey is that this is something that is not clear to me. And I'm actually not supposed to be clear about it. I'm just supposed to be honest about where I'm at. And it gives people a chance to experience the awakening of their consciousness as we all, in some way, not in a physical way, not in a literal way, but on an existential way and a spiritual way, we come together to do the most loving thing in community, which is we die together. And I'm giving people an opportunity to join me in this experience of death, where I'm literally living the next 3 years as if it's the last 3 years of my life. And the most extraordinary thing is I don't even have the feeling of wanting to travel all over the world and see the sacred sites I haven't seen, go to the Great Barrier Reef. I don't have that. The only thing I want to do is be at home, write books, and serve my community.
Hmm.
And it has put me in such a level of service, even deeper than ever before. It has put me in such a level of detachment, greater than ever before. And it has put me into a level of embodiment that has come with the downloading of some of the deepest, most earth-shattering teachings, where in the split second I was told this. I know exactly what enlightenment is. I know what its purpose is. I know what the purpose of death is. And it's just an extraordinary unfoldment as I take my breath, take the information I've been given, and decide what I'm going to do with the next 3 years of my life. And what I'm going to do, whether I'm meant to live for 3 years or 30 years, is I'm going to express my gifts to all those who are here to receive it in a blaze of glory.
Hmm.
And that's the edge I'm living at. And that is what is allowing me to be even more powerful and more everything than I've ever been before, because I am literally dancing with death now.
Wow. Wow. You're bringing me to tears, Matt.
Yeah.
Truly. This is so resonant in so many different ways. And I love it. You don't have to be clear about where you're going, but conscious of where you are now.
Yeah.
And we wind up chasing that future so often. And perhaps it's because death is chasing us and we're avoiding that intimacy
Yeah.
of the inevitable, which is so profound. It's just, thank you so much for sharing. And it's on a much smaller scale too, that your experience yesterday, a dear, like one of my dearest friends said to me, what if you approach the season of Beyond the Ordinary that's coming up, that you're launching tomorrow, like it's the last season that you're ever going to do?
Yeah.
And it raised something in me, and it let go of expectations and all these things and allowed this moment of deep appreciation and gratitude and playfulness and a surrender to giving love.
Yeah.
Not siphoning, but just like really just, why wouldn't we?
Right.
Why wouldn't we? Man, that is profound.
Thank you. It's sometimes we can give love with a face, and sometimes we learn to love without a face. And the face is the mask of ego that we wear.
Mm.
And that sometimes we love in a way where we're kind of half in the love and half in kind of observing ourselves, trying to be in the moment. And for me, the death is not a loss. It's the death of holding back. It's the death of hiding in observation. It's the death of being anything other than fully in this moment.
Mm.
And it's giving myself fully to this moment, loving completely, being loved completely. And what's extraordinary for me in sharing all this, and again, it literally in my body, because I can feel what death feels like. It feels like death is in my body, and I'm going to doctors, I'm taking care of myself, we're looking at things. I've always known exactly the way I'm going to die. I'm going to die in my sleep. I've always known that. And I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. So I find that fascinating, which is actually working out very well with me. I'm doing very well with that. But I'm being asked to live on an edge and to reevaluate what I do with my life And instead of it being, I'm going to stop doing my work and I'm just going to travel the world, what I actually want to do is give all of myself to my work, and not in a way that I'm overworking myself. But what I have found, some people find love in a relationship, which is wonderful. And I've had that, and I always welcome that. But I have found love in service. And when I was given the feeling of like, hey, you may not have as much time as you think. Sometimes when you get that diagnosis, you want to hold closest the people that you love. And who that is for me, I have my family, I have my friends, of course. But what I wanted to hold close to me was my audience and the people that I serve. And I think, just to kind of piggyback to what you were saying, to imagine this as the last season of Beyond the Ordinary is perhaps just an exercise to bring all of yourself out, so that all of those that are here and supporting you can have the extraordinary gift of fully receiving you, and their ability to fully receive you acts as a mirror to fully receive themselves. And so what an extraordinary exercise that could be for you and all that you offer. And it mirrors exactly what I'm sharing with you.
Well, and I'm getting the chills, as you're the perfect mirror for that on a larger scale. And so this is profound, and it's so fascinating that in the dying, we actually live like we've never lived before.
We actually do. And I'll tell you one of the reasons I think that's so, because I've downloaded so many new teachings on this. The reason why dying helps us live, and this is something so fascinating that it's fascinating when I in myself can blow my own mind when I channel things like, oh my God, because I love the work so much, right? And I love that. So, but what I realized was, what keeps us from living, because we exist and we don't live. And what keeps us existing and not living is an extraordinary amount of options. That to our egos, we think the more options, the more freedom. But the more options, the more we overthink, overconsider. We think about things, we window shop, but we never make a purchase. When we're living like we're dying, death takes away options. Death says there's literally no option. You have this much time to live. Do with it as you wish. And what happens is the most amount of options keeps us swirling in existence. The less amount of options we have, the less option there is to choose out of integrity or out of alignment. When there's no choice, there's only one choice. And the one choice is live fully. And a lot of us need less options in order to awaken more freedom. But the ego says, I need more options to feel free, even though it's the stripping away of the options that brings about that level of freedom.
Wow. Are y'all feeling this also, all of you? It's like Matt speaking directly to me. Is he speaking directly to you?
Yeah.
No, really. And that's what is so beautiful about your transmission as your life, or your life as the transmission that you give to us, which is from that embodied state of being. Truly, that's where I can really receive and have that mirror reflected back to me. So thank you. And your beautiful, vulnerable, honest, powerful, and peaceful sharing. And again, the peacefulness is what I want to get back to on that, because again, so many people, where we're going and how's it heading and what's happening with the energies and what's happening with the political system and all that. And it's wonderful to get caught up in wanting to be of service to ourselves and to others in the witnessing. But where does it have to start, right?
Right. And I think that part of the dilemma of the ego, again, no disrespect to the ego, we love it. But the ego says in order for things to happen, it has to go in a certain way. It creates a path, it creates a plan. And if things don't line up by our plan, we think it's not working out. The truth is everything's working out in humanity. Everything's working out in ascension. All the behind the scenes things, it's all working out in the name of the light. A lot of people want to know what's happening, how it's going to happen. The truth is it's happening on such a multidimensional level, and collectively we're all moving in and out of parallel timelines. The fact is the end result is love wins. How we're going to get there, how directly, how long-windedly, well, that's just a collective voting process that we go through as we all align. But I think that when we start to really take the inevitability of death seriously, when we bring it into focus, first it's going to bring up all of the attachments and fears we have, all the things we're afraid to be without, all the things that defined our sense of self. And if we can dare to welcome death in, what I've seen to be true, and as someone whose intention is to help people heal on a permanent level, what I have found is that a lot of the human suffering that we go through, right? And some paths will say it's the ego. Some people will say it's conditioning. Some people will say it's the collective energies. I'm here to give a different answer now because I know a deeper truth. And the deeper truth is that our patterns swirl as actively as we are unaware or in avoidance of death. And the minute you welcome death fully into your heart, one, it will feel as if there's a countdown, like you don't have as much time left. There is that. But immediately, the majority of the patterns that you're lost in will stop. Because death is your relationship with the afterlife, and the afterlife is a timeless dimension. And the more you bring timelessness into your present moment reality, the more the nuisances and imbalances created in time start to disappear. So if we really want to get on the other end of these patterns, if we really want to have less to track and manage and more of our soul to embody, and if we want to be able to use this lifetime as an opportunity to really embody the beauty of our soul in this multidimensional gift of time and space, human suffering are all the patterns that distract us from the death we haven't gotten to know. The minute we start getting to know death and the timeless dimension of grace, the more all the things created or endured in time cease to exist.
I'll breathe that in.
And that's a lot, but that's why I'm here to be an escort through the process of death. So we can die before we die. We can die psychologically, energetically, emotionally. And literally, John, what's happening right now in the ascension, as much as people want to say, oh, I'm not seeing spaceships, I'm not seeing light beings, I'm not feeling oneness, what's actually happening is that we are actually grieving our attachments to physical form and our physical reality, and we're starting to open up and create relationships with our light bodies and light realms. And so part of the ascension is we're already grieving the old self and the old world. And when we embrace death, we allow the old self and the old world to be returned to the light, and we literally hold space for a new self to be birthed, a new world to dawn. And that's why it's important that if I'm going to go through this process in my life, it's a process I guide everyone through because it's so pivotal for the ascension we're completing right now.
That's so beautiful. How can people get more intimate with their relationship with that? How can we really begin to have the relationship? Not everybody has Melchizedek showing up in the shower.
I know, right? I won a raffle. Apparently, hey, your spirit guide comes to you in the shower. Hey, whatever. I think that the best way that we get acquainted with death is we have to look at death as a guarantee. And that from our egos, we think having certain guarantees is going to give us safety. And what it does is it only guarantees us more time to work on issues that seem to prevent safety. The minute there is no guarantee that your next breath will come, that I will have another interview after yours, that at the end of the day, when I go to sleep, I'm going to wake up and tomorrow will be here. I don't have that guarantee. And none of us really do, but we forget about it. And when we start living without any guarantees, we start meeting the moment as it is, and we actually start relating to other people as they are, not as fantasies we hope for them to become, but how they are right here, right now. And we start living for this moment, not impulsively, but we start realizing the lack of guarantees is what gets us over ourselves. It's what gets us over our lack of safety. And we realize that the lack of safety is created by an abundance of guarantees. And it's actually a lack of guarantee that fully brings us forward. And that's really some warrior shit right there. But that's where we're at in history, is we have to literally, because the world by and large is in such avoidance of death that our societal infrastructure is based on keeping everything exactly the same so that no one's world is disrupted. That's the opposite of the way consciousness wants to move, which is why individually in our lives, we don't come together to change society. Society is changed by a series of transformed individuals. So in our lives, we have to do the most spiritually aligned and socially inappropriate thing, which is to stop living with guarantees and to see that guarantees and options sometimes are the most unsuspecting forms of imprisonment and enslavement, and that true freedom is when there's nothing to hide behind and nothing to rest on. That's when we are alive.
It's so amazing. And this is so amazing because living without the guarantees. I actually had a group all about this a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And it was so alive and so profound. But when you live without the guarantees, there's a byproduct that arises that's so exciting. Is we start living in awe.
Yeah.
And it's not just the mental aspects of awe, but the full body experience. There's an energy expansion. There is an intimacy with being the beingness that we seek.
Yes.
That can't be experienced without releasing exactly what you're talking about.
That's right.
Constructs that we feel are providing a foundation that hopefully will take us down this road that we'll one day get to. And there's no guarantee of that ever.
Well, what's funny is we joke about this a lot. Oh, by the time you get to the future, it's now called the present. But it's the truth, where when I was given this message, all sense of future disappeared. What I also realized was something fundamentally breathtaking. And that was, here I was in the shower with 20 years of goals for me to play out in my life, right? I want to do some TV shows. I want to do culinary. I have more books to write, cookbooks, all these things. Okay. And then I took that painting of my 20-year life and I kind of set it into the river. I kind of set it into the ocean like a mandala and kind of let it go. Mm-hmm. When you do that, when you take whatever you think the future is and give it to the ocean, or say, here's my plan, divinity, I hand it over to you. Do with it what you will, fulfill all of it or none of it. And here's what I realized. Because in one moment, I felt like I'm not going to be someone that has the ability to live out those 20 years. That's the first thing that came to me. But then a bigger insight came to me. And the insight was this: whether any goal that you envision is lived out in this lifetime or not, the experiences you would gain and the maturity it would awaken is what you are guaranteed to embody, even if the phenomenon of what you're trying to attract doesn't seem to come or go. And so I am living the maturity and embodiment and the life experiences of the 20 years I may or may not get a chance to live. The universe has given me the wisdom and the experience of what that would be like. And whether or not I live it out in physical form or not is simply the unfolding of a play. Mm-hmm. I'm fully surrendered in it. There have been times in my life where I may have felt like my health is going in one direction and I felt this urge to fight because that was what I was meant to do at that part of my life. For whatever's going on inside of me, and again, I'm being taken care of on many levels. Mm-hmm. This isn't something I'm supposed to fight. This is something I'm supposed to meet. And I'm literally in every breath with you, with everyone on the call, with every call I do, I am meeting death head on. And I'm speaking and connecting with you and everyone on this call as if there is no option. This is it. This is all there is. And when it's done, my time will have come. So and I think that ability, even just the words, but you feel the energy behind it, that ability to bring life into the present and not to kind of project our happiness onto the future, which is actually what we do to cope with the present moment, right? Instead of daring to relate to the present moment differently, we spare ourselves of the agony by projecting something in the future that we're hoping either to earn or to work towards. But what if that's the exact thing that's in the way of your freedom? What if that's what if that's the thing that is in the way of living this moment fully? And what if just the realization, I'm closer to the end than I am to the beginning?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a 45-year-old man. I've been doing this work for 18 years. And I feel like in some ways I've just reached a new level of pinnacle of high in my career. And I feel like in some ways I'm just getting going.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I may not live past my 47th birthday. And I'm welcoming that. Mm-hmm. When you do that for no matter who we are in our lives, that's when things get real. And what I will tell you, I'll share with you, John, I've experienced a lot of phenomena in my life. I've experienced samadhi consciousness for so many years uninterrupted. I've, talked to my spirit guides every day. I've been astral projected onto spaceships. I've things I don't even talk about half the time because it sounds just like, you know what I mean? Like whatever. But I've had some of the most extraordinary experiences. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what this has given me that I haven't had before this moment. I feel real. How many of us are spiritual beings, we're empaths, and we feel alone, we feel separate? Where's our soul family? Where's the people to connect to? And the reason we look for that is because we don't feel real, we feel invisible. Mm-hmm. And it took death for me to feel real. I was living my life before, but now I'm living it for real. And so now for the next 3 years, the healing I offer goes into a different reality. The consciousness I transmit goes into a different reality. The insights I glean goes into a whole different level of reality, because for the first time in my life, I felt expanded before. I felt multidimensional. I felt awake. I felt all those things. I felt love, unity. I now feel real. Mm. And that's where my life really begins, for all of us too.
Well, there's an openness, there's an expansion, there's the peacefulness.
Yeah.
That genders this wisdom that you hold like you've never held it before.
Yeah.
And that's just absolutely true. That's profound. This reminds me of a profound experience. And by the way, there's so many parallels between you and I, and the eloquence in which you transmitted is just second to none.
Thank you.
7 years ago, we had one of the most profound calls we've ever had on BTO, and our fathers had transitioned right around the same time. And that call and talking about depth and the acceptance and the relational aspects that call was just on another level. Like we replayed it not too long ago because it was so profound, and it felt like this depth conversation was so up for us as we transition realities, as we transition what's possible. Yeah. About 8 years ago, I had one of the most profound experiences on the island of Bimini, and I got taken out to the boat dock on the ocean, and I gave back to God everything that Source allowed me to experience that wasn't mine to hold on to. Mm. The love I had received, the success, the friendships, the pinnacle moments, all the experiences. And when I gave back my daughters, I knew I was onto something. And I was in tears, just not crying. And it's like, none of it's mine. I give it all back to you. And whether I live in a mansion in the middle of a private island, or if I'm living in a shack in the slum of the most impoverished place in the world, just thank you, thank you, thank you. Right. At that moment, that Source, God, I met it on the other side. Mm-hmm. It's like, welcome. I've been waiting for you. Now start creating together. Yeah. It was amazing. It was absolutely so beautiful.
It is amazing. And I really appreciate the eloquence of what you're sharing, and the beautiful of giving back our attachments and handing it back over to Source. One of the things I wanted to share too, and I think it's really incredibly important, is no matter how much time we have to live our lives, we're all meant to live for the duration we're meant to be here. Some of us have more time than others, for the journeys we're on. But I think something else that's interesting, we talk about co-creation with Source and manifesting and all these things. Something else that struck me as an interesting realization was that manifesting for our personal desires is part of an initiation where we become aware that we can create and manifest, and we do so for our personal gain, which is totally fine. But what if the deeper invitation is that we're actually meant to use our co-creative powers to say, wow, if I have the power to change my reality, what happens if I apply this power to humanity? And what if, and I can tell you for the next 3 years, again, just going through this exercise as I'm being shown, whether it's literal or metaphorical, I'm going to meet the moment as it's so obviously asking to be met. But one of the things that I want to do is I want to use my incredible co-creative powers, that I have done to serve my audience, that has blessed me with so much beauty and richness in my life. But I want to help bring the world together where we can use our abilities, our co-creative powers, and manifest for the world, and to realize that one of the most incredible ways to access and open up infinite miracles and grace from the universe is to allow our powers to be used to benefit others. And I think we're at a point in spiritual evolution. We're at a point as a global community where we say, okay, whether we have manifested for ourselves or we haven't had that glimpse, whether we've healed ourselves to completion or we're just rounding the corner on a different level or layer, I think this is the time when we talk about the second coming of Christhood, right? The second Messiah is the I am, the one waking up in the community, right? Conscious community is the second coming. So what would happen as a community is, yeah, we support each other through our healing. Yes, we support each other through the fulfillment of our aspirations on a personal level. But what if we get together as a community and we start to say, how can we use all of our powers and abilities to start creating a better world for all beings? And I think that as the world, we start looking at ascension of the world's going to wake up, the world's going to know we're all one. But the invitation for us spiritual beings is to take things deeper and further than we took it before. So while there's people that are starting their journeys, and it's very easy to be distracted by people just beginning their journeys, we're being tasked with an invitation that says, take this higher than it's ever been before. And from my perspective, there could be nothing higher than communities getting together, using all the power that we have within us to create change for the world, and to see how much of the universe will open up aspects of our lives and flood it with miracles when we start using our powers to affect life for the greater good of all. That's something I want to see in my lifetime.
But what you're doing and the way you're approaching isn't from that warrior, I'm going to save as many people as I can before the boat, before my boat goes under. Your approach is different. Again, you're talking about doing a culinary show and writing books and going into the world. Rather, I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to scream it from the rooftop and I'm going to like bring the troops in. What's the difference? Why do you see some people? And I guess we need all of it, right? Like we need different types of people doing different things, advocating in their own unique way.
Well, we have people that are going to visualize a different reality than the world we have right now. So we have people visualizing the outcome of the highest perspective. We have people crowdfunding and bringing resources together because really most issues are a distribution issue. How do we take, the fact that there are few people that have a lot and there are a lot of people that have few, and how do we balance that out a little bit? So, there's going to be checks and balances. There's going to be crowdfunding. There's going to be legislative reform. There's going to be, things on every level really to transform reality. And I think that each of us just have to ask ourselves the question is, with the resources I have available, what is the most obvious role for me to play that helps every day my participation in creating a world that I want to see? That, yes, we get together, we process the insanity of the world. I can't believe this is happening. How cruel, how inhumane, all these things. But, the question really life wants to ask us, and what the doorway of death urges us to ask ourselves sooner rather than later, is literally, what are we going to do about it? Meaning, okay, are we going to go to war with people that are at war within themselves? Are we going to go to war with people that are at war with other innocent people? Or are we going to hold space for conscious resolution? And how do we start becoming the change we want to see, instead of just pointing our finger and waiting for other people to change? Because if our life's a movie and we're the main character, The main character is who changes. The
Mm.
supporting cast doesn't really change. They just create the perfect environment for the main character's transformation. So really the realization is I'm the one that's going to change. I'm the one that's here to grow. And what can I do to advance everything I want to see in the world forward, even if I just take one small step each day? That's all we can do.
Beautiful. I was on a call the other day, and it was a group call that I was leading, and someone came in, and it's like I've reached this level, and it seems like there's something else, and I feel like I'm stuck in this and stuck in that, and looking for a reason for the stuckness. Like, well, what if you're not stuck? What have you gotten to a place that you can take the breath, that you're holding an example, a doorway of what's possible to cross in a threshold, and really your only requirements is to bask
Yes.
in that level of consciousness, in that level of intentionality that you carry. And I'd love you to speak more into that.
Yeah. You know, I
Because it
think,
seems like you're functioning from that place. It's
oh,
I think
absolutely.
obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, I think when we talk about feeling stuck, it's interesting because the same thing we would call a creative block is the same thing we would perceive as a block in our intuition. And on both sides, there's not really a block. What it is we are getting information, or we're being guided in a way, or being inspired to create something that isn't what the ego wants to be a part of. So for example, when it's a creative block, I say to someone, because I've worked with a lot of people on creative blocks, and I said, so what's the block? And they said, well, I don't know what wants to come through. And I said, well, what if you write about what it's like to not know what wants to come through? And they said, well, I don't want to write about that. I said, well, that's the only block there is that what wants to come through you is something you don't want to bring through. But as an artist, we surrender to the art, not forcing the art to meet the agenda of the artist. It's the same thing with culinary. I'm surrendered to bringing out the highest will of these ingredients. I can project my ideas onto them, but if I project my ideas onto ingredients and it's not the way they want to be gathered and combined, it's not going to taste right. And then I'm going to go, what did I do wrong? And the answer is I didn't listen. And so I think the most amazing thing to realize is that when we feel stuck, it's because we're as stuck as we are unaware of death's looming invitation. And the minute we start to be aware of, what if this was the end? What if this was one of the last moments and I don't even know it? In that moment, there's no block. There's no barrier. And there's also no resistance to bringing through what wants to come through us. There is simply the awareness that here's what wants to come through me. I have the right to bring it through or not bring it through, but that's the only option there is. And we simply decide. And when there's less options, it's amazing what we can birth. And so what's interesting is I think a lot of the spiritual journey has been created out of a field of conveniences. It has been created to be an environment that is not real to the world we're going to apply our insights into. Like if you go take karate, you're going to be in a dojo. It's going to be air conditioned. Everyone's going to be polite. No one's going to do something they weren't instructed to do. They're going to hold a punch. You're going to learn how to block. You're going to learn all the stances, all the cool things. When you're in the street, not that I get into a ton of fights, but it goes down way differently in the streets than it does in the dojo. And I think the spiritual journey is very similar, where we've all practiced all of this under controlled circumstances. We have shown up at events when we wanted. We've sat where we've wanted. We've stayed and we've listened for as little or as long as we've wanted. And it's put the ego into a position of thinking that it has the right to control the terms and conditions of reality. And that's actually why people are so stuck, because their spiritual path has been birthed out of a field of conveniences. And it's reality's job to put us into real world situations to help us really connect with the marrow and the essence of spirituality, which allows us to be liberated, free, and heart-centered beings, whether life is convenient, going our way, or anything else in between.
Yeah, whether life is gifting us the clicking, the seconds that we wish to live, or whether it's saying, hey, this is how much you have left, and guess what? You're going to have to deal. Which pretty much it tells us from the very beginning, but we conveniently choose to think otherwise.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been taught in a way that really supports living the life knowing that it is. We live our life avoiding the inevitable.
Absolutely. And I think that when we're aware of the inevitable, that's when our relationship with time changes. I was talking to someone in a dialogue, and I said, they were talking about time being an illusion. And I said something that time is only an illusion once you've mastered it. Once you've learned to use your time wisely. And same thing with death. People can say death is an illusion, but the truth is death is a transition. Death is a transition from one-dimensional reality to another. Death is a teacher. Death is a friend. Death is a motivator. And only when we've learned everything we're here to learn from death can we actually see through and say, oh, you don't really die. You just change shape and form into a different dimensional perspective. But to read that and to say that before you've taken the journey with death and received all of its insights directly is kind of flipping to the back of the book, knowing the answer, but not knowing how to show your work on a blackboard. When the teacher says, can you show me, Matt Kahn? Oh, that's the right answer. Can you show me how you got that answer? Oh, just got the answer. We have to be able to show our work. And so people can say time is an illusion, death is an illusion, and it's a coping mechanism. It's because people don't know how to deal with something that they can't negotiate with. And that's what the ego bumps up against. But as soon as we surrender to that as a teacher, time is a teacher, death is a teacher, because these things wait for no one. They negotiate with no one. And what you want is a teaching that you cannot negotiate with, so that your only impulse in response to that teaching is to grow, change, and expand to your optimal capacity. And so really in life, whether we see how life is going in the world, time, death, when we look at a world, then we go, are things really improving? We've been put into an environment where there's so little to negotiate with, it forces us to focus on what matters most. And so my sharing of what I'm going through with death, my literal processing of death, and my invitation to invite everyone who is a part of this to walk the path of death with me, which doesn't mean anyone's going to die faster than they're supposed to. It just means we're going to all wake up together. This is the optimal and highest path of spiritual unfoldment. But in order for us to grow and expand to our highest capacity, there has to be less negotiation and more guidance for us to follow. And I think that there could be no better tour guide than the beauty of death, because it's in death that we truly are given the permission to live as we've never lived before. And that's what I want everyone here and in the world to receive from me.
So beautiful, Matt. And what a gift. And I'm receiving it for sure. I feel completely lit up right now. And this brings me, I want to get into your special offer and maybe take some questions also, because we have a lot of people on the line. This is so profound. But again, getting back to the conversation, my perspective on sitting on the edge and having that relationship with God and the constructs of time and death also. When you get to know those energies, that wisdom, a place and a reverence of awe. It's like, you're somewhere. It's not avoiding. And again, the reverence for the teacher, the awe, the majesty that is unfolding for us, to us. It just shifts everything in such a huge way. And again, you're living and embodying it and transmitting it. So thank you for that, Matt. Everybody, we're going to open up to some Q&A in a little bit and take some calls, because I feel some great calls coming in from y'all.
Yeah, of course.
This is such a touching call. But I want you all to have the opportunity to work with Matt on a deeper level. He and Julia put together a special offer for us here on Beyond the Ordinary Show. It really is a special offer in all of the sense of the word and in the highest form. April has put the link for the special offer in the chat box. Just open up the chat box, click on the blue link. It'll take you to a special offer page.
Yeah.
Or if you need to, open up a new browser and just type in beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Matt29. And it'll take you to the same page. Matt, I'm going to share my screen over here as well.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to guide us through what you're offering here, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, well, here we see me.
You together as well.
The entire sweater vest, although I'm in the process of retiring that. So,
Nice.
you know, together as one. I believe this is a package of a couple different events that we put together. And I believe that we did it because we felt like the emotions that we focus on each of these 3 calls is really 3 of the top emotions that people are kind of experiencing and processing right now. And John, let me, I think it was one was on fear, one was on anger. What was that?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah.
So
here it
together,
was.
relationships
First one
and
was,
contracts.
yeah, relationship soul contracts. So in this together is one, thank you, I'm remembering as I see it. We did a whole call on relationships and soul contracts. And the really interesting focus I remember from this was that it was unraveling the idea of soul contracts as being used to perpetuate codependency. That there's no relationship that people are supposed to stay in that doesn't feel good to them, or is being around people who only know how to process their pain by taking it out on people. So this was a really extraordinary call.
Wow.
To help get people over fear and to help get people over the tendency to overly spiritualize relationships, or the idea that I can't leave until another person says it's okay for me to leave, or to confuse that with an idea of conscious uncoupling. And I just wanted to do an event where I really just kind of cut through the facade of spiritual pretense and really understand what a soul contract is, what it isn't, and to realize that there's no soul contract that obligates you to be in any location longer than you want to be there. So I thought that was, a really powerful call.
Amazing. And together we go into relationships and intimacy.
Man, I wanted to do a call on intimacy and really talking about emotional intimacy. We can talk about physical intimacy. I know it's a very popular subject. It's, certainly got a lot of stars on Yelp reviews, physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy is one of my favorite topics. I think that emotional intimacy is a building block to physical intimacy. We talked about in the call, releasing sexual shame and learn new ways to heal trauma. We cleared patterns of codependent entanglement. And really, it's just about bringing consciousness both to the masculine and feminine within ourselves, and how that changes and affects the different masculine and feminine characters that we attract in our reality. Again, that was a really stunning and incredible call.
That's amazing. And then we go, why do things happen the way that they do?
Oh my God. That question popped up one day. I think I was in the shower, because a lot of things drop into the shower. And it was just like, I was thinking, what should my next Together as One event be? And then what popped in was, why do things happen the way they do? And again, I wanted to dissolve and dispel spiritual myths about the law of attraction, that most people are interpreting things in their lives as a way of blaming the experiencer, which is what we do when we're processing traumas. We either protect our perpetrators or we blame the victim. And so I really just wanted this call to be about how to see how the universe is always conspiring in your highest favor, not to overly spiritualize what's happening in the world, not to kind of just, wrap it in bright, shining, high vibrational gift wrapping paper and, to have us turn away from the atrocities of the world, but to really understand the actual reason of why things happen the way they do. I thought it was a really stunning call, and the fact that we can put them together so that people can take in each transmission as a package. I'm just so grateful I have this opportunity to share it with everyone in this call.
Oh no, this is so aligned and so powerful right now. And it's certainly different things that I've been experiencing and dropping me into it. And then with this conversation that we're having today, again, being experienced, and the calling of that, this is amazing. Y'all, the special offer is $97. Again, it is a special offer in all sense of the words, from a price point, the reduced price point that we have access to here on Beyond the Ordinary. There's a 2-payment option on this as well, by the way. But from what Matt's sharing from his position of embodiment, his capacity to transmit at an even higher level from that place of peacefulness and a very calm purpose. Right? It's from there that's like, it's like you can be received even more because there's not the sense of urgency or the erratic energy. It's like somehow there's just that brook that just winds down into the ocean and gets received into the oceanic consciousness that we have access to, that we all wind up in eventually. We do. And so to be in these waters that Matt's providing now, the special offer is just beautiful. And I hope you all take advantage of it. Again, the link is in the chat box, or open up a new link, like I said before, and just type in beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Matt28. Take advantage of y'all. You'll find testimonials. If y'all are new to Matt, you probably won't need to read them even after listening to today's call. Again, this is just so resonant and so expansive from the heart place, Matt. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Matt, I want to open up to some live Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm going to start promoting some people to panelists. If y'all have your hand raised, be prepared, as I'm going to start calling on y'all here in a second.
Let's do a lightning round.
I have one question for you, Matt, before people start coming on live. At this point, what are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of? Oh my God. It's amazing. The last thing I was afraid of was the thing I was the most afraid of my entire life, which was needles. I avoided going to a doctor for 8 years because I didn't want a blood draw, to be perfectly honest. And so I eventually started going, I moved to Portland and I got myself a naturopath and a holistic dentist. And within like 1 month, for whatever reason, I had to experience 7 injections.
Wow.
And so I don't like blood draws, to be honest, right? But I will say I'm no longer afraid of them. And to be honest, I really don't know what I'm actually afraid of anymore, because when this kind of eruption happens within you, whether it's an existential death, an introduction into enlightenment, or a countdown of physical unraveling, it kind of takes death away. And what's interesting about death, or I'm sorry, the fear takes fear away. I misspoke. And what's interesting about fear is that fear, by and large, is just the scary precedent of anticipation. And so when you experience death, what's taken from you is anticipation. And when anticipation is taken from you, there's really nothing to be afraid of. So rather than position myself like I'm on the other side of fear, fear is just kind of a series of clouds that dissipate.
Oh, beautiful. I love your sharing on that. Not the answer I expected. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, I'm afraid of losing myself. These existential type of things. I will say that losing ourselves seems like the greatest risk. Sometimes we don't like being the characters that we seem to portray. It's the thing we're trying to do the hardest, is lose ourselves. But when not trying to reject yourself, but just allowing the one that you've micromanaged and controlled and fixated on most of your life to go, as a way of saying, it's wonderful that I spend time with you, but you have friends to play with. That sweetly. When we let go of ourselves like that, something deeper awakens. And I can only speak from the experience of having that experience and what that has brought me recently, and how much deeper that will take all of us in our journey together. Wow. My God, so beautiful. All right, y'all, who are we calling on first? Angela Johnson, welcome to the call. Let's get you to unmute, please. And you guys find your unmute buttons so we can transition through this gracefully, if you don't mind. Hi.
Thank you. Hey, thank you both so much. This is fantastic. The question I've got is, it's like I feel the universe placing me into scenario after scenario where I'm becoming intimate with a feeling that I believe I'm meant to become intimate with. And it's like deep, like not being gotten. like really fundamentally not being gotten.
Mhm.
And there are so many layers of heat that my body is like
Yeah.
loving the one who's experiencing this. And it just feels like there's fucking eons of pain wrapped up in these tissues
Sure.
in my body
Sure.
that get triggered. And I'm just curious if you got a magical repeat after me that maybe there's lots of us on this call that
I sure do.
might have this.
I sure do. I mean, you know, one more repeat after me before it's time to. I'm just kidding. So let's try this out. That's for the ship. That's so funny. So let's try this together. What's your first name again?
Angela.
Hey, Angela. It's an honor to meet you.
Thank
So try this out loud, and we'll explore this together. So try this out loud. I accept that the heat that's arising is because my Kundalini energy got activated.
is because my Kundalini energy got activated.
And when my Kundalini gets activated, my identity starts to shift from object to essence. And the way my ego interprets that
And the way that my ego interprets that
is that instead of returning to my formless nature,
is that instead of returning to my formless nature,
it interprets it through inferiority.
it interprets it.
It's okay, honey.
Mm.
And thinks it's invisible.
And thinks it's invisible.
That's just how my ego interprets awakening.
That's just how my ego interprets awakening.
More as a death than a rebirth.
More as a death than as a rebirth.
But I'm not what's dying, I'm what's being reborn.
But I am not what's dying.
There we go.
I am what's being reborn.
And in knowing it is so,
And in knowing it is so,
I allow all beliefs, identifications, and attachments
I allow all beliefs, identifications, and attachments
to ego consciousness,
to beloved ego consciousness,
to the unconsciousness of my conditioning,
to the unconsciousness of my conditioning,
to any unconscious cords I carry
to any unconscious cords that I carry
throughout all ancestral bloodlines,
throughout all ancestral bloodlines,
all cleared out of my energy field,
all cleared out of my energy field,
return to the source of its origin,
return to the source of its origin,
transmuted completely. Here we go. That's okay, honey. You're coming home. And heal to completion now.
all transmuted completely
And heal to completion now.
and healed to completion now.
Okay. And as of this moment,
And as of this moment,
I reunite with the light of the divine feminine.
I reunite with the light of the divine feminine
To balance out and harmonize
to balance out and harmonize
the masculine energies within me,
the masculine energies within me,
uniting my mind and my heart together
uniting my mind and my heart together
in the holy matrimony of unity consciousness,
in the holy matrimony of unity consciousness,
that honeymoon together
that honeymoon together
in the depths of my gut.
in the depths of my gut.
And so I'm free,
And so I am free,
allowing the Kundalini energy that has arisen
allowing the Kundalini energy that is arisen
to fully rise,
to fully rise,
to simultaneously subside,
to simultaneously subside,
and ground into the fifth dimensional earth grid
and to ground into the fifth dimensional earth grid
that I am now.
that I am now.
And so it is.
And so it is.
How does that feel?
It feels there's all these things happening. When do I stop to answer the question?
That's okay. How do you
It,
feel right now?
yeah, I feel landed. I feel
Mhm.
landed. There's parts of me that are like still letting go and still
Of course.
somehow the body's doing its thing, but I feel it.
So here's some funny advice I'll give you. Funny advice. So you're someone that I could describe as fiery. So
Okay.
people that are fiery, and I mean this in a positive way, people that are fiery energy,
Yep.
always try to lean towards thinking they need to be more expanded.
Yeah.
And it often lifts you out of your body. And half of the predicament is that you're not spending enough time in your body. So people that are fiery should focus on grounding, and people that are more level and grounded and watery should then explore expansion. So for you, expansion is where you can kind of hide. So I wouldn't do fiery things. I would do more watery things to balance it out. So whether it's qigong or flowing slow vinyasa yoga, things like that.
Yeah.
Right? None of the
Yeah.
fiery shit.
Yeah. I had to cut
none
them.
of the plant medicine, none of that stuff.
Yep. Yeah. I've had to cut it out for the past 2 years because I noticed the same thing. Yeah. Very slow, subtle movements,
Right.
sounding to keep me in and down
Right.
and through. And
Right. So let the universe be in charge of expansion. You focus on grounding. And the most important thing for grounding is every day we have a little bit of a structure. We have places to go. We have things to do. We have ways in which we're connecting with the world. We're being socially open. We're helping. We're earning a living. Structure is really important for grounding. And especially when you're fiery and expansive, especially at this stage of evolution in your consciousness. This is exactly what you need. And just so you know, to help you, this is also the stage where the ego in its final battle, its final negotiation with the present moment, which doesn't really end up well, it usually starts to say, I need to go somewhere else, do something else, or become someone else. And that's where you have to sit still, smile at yourself and go, I love you, honey. But no.
Beautiful. Angela, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
An honor.
with all love, just thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up in the way that did. You're so loved. You're so loved. And in your receiving your own love through the transmission of the repeat after me, that profound love loved us. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for receiving
that. Oh my goodness. Yes.
From one fiery person to another. I know about fire. Everyone says I'm fiery and I think they're all liars, but it's true. I'm super intense, I suppose. I don't think I'm that intense. Whatever. Whatever.
Blessings, Michelle.
Love you.
All right, Matt. We have a question that came in from Suzanne. And Suzanne, thank you so much for writing. Suzanne writes, can you please speak to those of us who live in the with physical pain and its limitations? How can I be of service to others when I can barely focus in the moment because of the pain?
Great question. I have experienced profound pain in my life on very interesting ways. I will humbly say that my pain pales into comparison to childbirth. I have been birthed. I've never given birth. So with respect to every person that has ever birthed, but in my own experience, I've experienced relentless pain. Even in my new book, I talk about an experience of relentless pain that I experienced for whether it's 15 to 18 hours of relentless, grueling pain. And part of how I deal with pain is actually how I got over my fear of needles. You know, when I was telling you my fear of needles and fear of doctor procedures and whatever. So one of the things I learned to do with pain, and this was something that just spontaneously jumped in for me or dropped in for me. And the invitation was, what if you were on the same side as pain? And this is something I really learned about pain, is that when I was in the most pain in my life, I was on the opposite side of pain. I was the person trying to make pain stop. And then I asked myself the question, what if I wasn't the one trying to make pain stop? What if I was the one cheering pain on? And I said to myself, I know the pain I'm feeling is just a healing transpiring on its most visceral level. That the deepest pain I feel is just how deep the universe is carving to release out of me what I'm ready to heal. And I'm only feeling what I'm strong enough to release. And I started in a moment of pain, cheering on my pain, as if my pain was like first responders in a 5-alarm fire going on inside my body. And they were here to clear out and heal what was ready to be released. And I was sitting there in debilitating pain, also going, go get it, pain, get it, clear it, heal it. And then when I was getting my teeth, when I was getting a teeth cleaning, but I have to do this thing called perio maintenance. And if you fall off the wagon, you have to have this deep cleaning thing with all these injections. COVID happened. No one stayed on their program. So of course, got to go through that again. Okay. So I'm now having to get like 6 shots on each side. And I'm not a fan of needles, but I am sitting there in a meditative position and I am cheering on the hygienists. I'm cheering on their tools. I'm cheering on every injection they give me. And everything I felt was an indication that what they were doing was working. So when I felt the needle, that meant the anesthetic was starting to work. And I learned to cheer on the procedure. I learned to champion the hygienists, the dentists, the doctors. I learned to cheer on my pain. And when I was cheering on my pain, I was no longer forming an allegiance with an imaginary part of me that thought it was separate from it. And it was only a separate imaginary version of me who was the most afraid of something because he didn't know that something so intense could be for my evolutionary benefit. And the minute I started cheering on pain, it literally contradicted what I've learned about my life. My mind completely exploded. And nothing I ever thought or believed about my life was true ever again. From that one standpoint of everything in my life where I'd loved myself and loved people and all this stuff came down to, when you're in pain, whose side are you on? And I'm on the side of truth. And it doesn't mean I abandon myself. It means I make myself as safe as possible by not making pain a threat or an invasion. And it's one of the most powerful things I've ever done.
Wow. Wow. Talk about embodying your wisdom.
Yeah.
Talk about walking your talk.
Mm-hmm. And I would feel pain, like, oh, I feel the needle. Yes. And my ego would say, that's painful. You know what I would say? Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Then there'd be space. And then the voice would be like, well, it wasn't that painful. I know. And then it would say, what about the next one? Will that be painful too? Probably. And literally, it just stopped. It stopped. Because what was feeding that voice was the me trying to convince it it's going to get better. All it needed was truth. That was painful. Yes, it was. And I love you. Will the next one be painful? It might be. What can I do about it? Nothing. Love means truth. And all we have to do is say, yes, this might be painful. Yes, I might not like this. Yes, this might be uncertain. But can I be on the side of the procedure? I know someone just texted and they have surgery next week. Can I be on the side of the procedure? Can I be on the side of the surgeons? Can I be on the side of the anesthesiologists? Can I set my intention that these are my angels and my angels are going to work through them? And here's my anesthesiologist. Hey, you're my hero. You're the one that's going to make this the least painful possible. Do your magic. Show me your magic trick. Hey, there's the surgeon. Hi, angel. Do your best work. And as long as we are on the side of procedure, we are on the side of pain, as long as we are on the same side, it's extraordinary how less intense the pain will be. So my testimony, my living testimony, is that when you are not opposite of pain, it's not as intense. And that people trying to manage their pain while opposing their pain is why there is pain to be managed.
That's beautiful, man. I love your awareness around that. How can we be I facilitated someone who's going through different levels of cancer, and it was one of the most beautiful invitations that I received as a soul here to experience. Truly. How can you be with someone with compassion as they're going through their relationship with pain and not hold what would seem to be maybe a little cold, but you're just being asked to fall into a relationship with pain and acknowledge it and just be present with it?
Yeah.
How can you be the one that's supporting someone who's going through their experience of the illness or their experience of these bodily just things that we'd rather avoid?
Well, you know, believe it or not, I'm sharing this insight with an audience because I've been invited to share this wisdom. So I do. In my personal life, I have a rule. And it's a rule that has changed my life for the better. The rule is I do not give any specific insights unless I'm asked a specific question. So in every moment, I can tune into the universe and know exactly what may help. But just because I can tune into what may help doesn't mean I know what's going to help. If that's going to help, the person in front of me is going to ask me a question that matches the insight that just came through. That's when it's my role to play that. So when I'm loving someone, and I'll tell you a story about how I helped someone through cancer. Because how I support people is I'm actually exactly where they're at. And most people in pain, the pain is because they're not where their body is. So my job is to be where their body is and to show them that's where the companionship is so that I make it safer for them to be where their body is. So when they say I'm in pain, I don't say to them, befriend your pain, love your pain. That's how most people would hear this insight, and then they try to replicate it. That teaching is for me so that I can be with people in pain, even when they can't manage to be in pain. So for example, if someone's in pain, I would be like, and my God, for someone who's in pain, you're moving through this so miraculously. And I just want to let you know what a good job you're doing. And even if they say, I don't care what kind of good job I'm doing, make my pain go away or leave. You know, I can't seem to do anything about that. I'd love to stay, or if you want me, if it would be better for you if I left, just let me know. And I'm just there to pace someone else's experience. Perfect example. I talked to someone who was recently diagnosed with cancer many years ago, someone in my personal life. And I didn't know. And I walked in there. I said, hey, how are you doing? They said, how am I doing? Yeah. They said, I was just diagnosed with cancer. And I just looked at them. You know, when you say things you don't think?
Oh, yeah.
I'm blessed that sometimes the things I say and don't think work out, right? And so I looked at them and I go, oh my God, you're so lucky. And they go, what do you mean by that? And then I stepped outside of myself. Yeah, Matt Kahn, what do you mean by that? Are you nuts? And I said, you're so blessed. You're so lucky to have cancer. I said, I would love to have cancer. And they looked at me and I said, can I have your cancer? If you don't want it, I'd love it. And they went, what do you mean? I said, will you give me your cancer? Because I would love it. And they just looked at me. And I said, what are you feeling? And they said, strangely calm. And all I did was I welcomed the moment as a congratulations instead of I'm sorry. Always open-hearted. I'm not there to move someone beyond their experience. If you come to my event, we work together directly on healing. If we're doing it like we're doing it right now, right? Then we roll up our sleeves and we get gangster and we resolve things in seconds. But if I'm in my personal life and I'm not playing this role, if I have not been given permission because someone has not asked a question, I don't give a single insight. I don't move them a single molecule beyond their experience. And that's actually what gives people permission to face their experiences, to process them, and to grow and expand in spite of the circumstances at hand. So I think a lot of times innocently, we want to help people grow and expand. We want to take people out of pain. One, because we don't like seeing people in pain. Two, we don't like empathing people in pain because then we're in pain. So sometimes it can be a little bit about us. But if we learn to be exactly where people are at, I totally hear you're in pain. I wish I could do something about it, but I'm here with you. What should we do with our time while we're in pain? And all we do is we slowly show people that we can actually live the majority of our lives, even while in pain or debilitated or dealing with a diagnosis, that the diagnosis isn't actually an interrupter to life, it's actually a permission to live. And so when I'm loving people through things, I'm doing it in a more embodied and different way than when I'm working this deliberately. But the one thing I don't do is try to give someone a different way to see something, because I'm there to use all of my gifts, my talents, and my experience to make it completely safe for someone to be exactly where they don't want to be.
I love that, man. That's so Ascension G, Ascension gangster, truly.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
And I've had to learn and practice also in situations where I'm not being asked, where I do want to intervene and give insight and all that. Where am I really doing this for me because I'm uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I really doing it for them? And
That's
what's in the highest tier? How can I really show up as love instead of trying to control love and manipulate love?
Absolutely. And I think that's such a hard one. I think people think if I get the insight, I'm meant to share it. Okay. On certain levels, everything's a little different. I've even been in positions where something is really coming through fast, and I'll say to someone, hey, I've got some intuitions coming through to share with you, but you let me know when you're ready to receive them. Or like I go to a holiday party and the person answering the door wants to hear all about my exciting news and all the things going on, but I know that they're hosting a party, and I say to them, hey, I know you have a lot of things to do right now. Why don't you go do your thing, be the host, find me throughout the party at some point, and we'll sit down and we'll talk when you have more time and attention. Oh my God, thank you so much. So for me, one of the ways I value my time is by valuing other people's time. That if I have something that I want to share, I want to make sure that we're in a space to really give and receive each other. And sometimes I'll see people and I'll say, hey, why don't you let me know when you have time for this? No rush. And I let them come to me, which will let me know that they're ready to really receive what I have to share. Or I have an insight. Let me know when we can find some private time to really process this. And I let them come to me. And if they don't come to me, it must not be ready to be shared. And so it takes a certain level of surrender to know all that you know. And in fact, when you're with other people, the insights that are dropping in are actually for you to help you cope with someone who's in an experience you may not want them to be in. So it's actually for you. And if people are meant to receive it, they will ask questions of interest. And one of the greatest things we can do as intuitives is to be intuitive, to be connected, but from a space of surrender where we know the first gift of our presence is being a companion to others' experiences. That what we need to heal is more time spent connecting with each other instead of more time correcting each other.
So beautiful. We'll talk about spending more time with each other. And again, the special offer with Matt. The link, April, will you type it into the chat box again so it's just easier to access because we have so many. There you go. So many comments coming in, which is amazing. But y'all take advantage of it. Again, it's the 3 workshop together as one, going into, again, relationships and soul contracts. And I love what you're bringing up in reference to soul contracts and codependency. That is huge.
So huge.
Together as one, relationships and intimacy. And again, this intimacy that you're having with depth, but the vitality, the intimacy with vitality that you're having simultaneously, it's like, holy crap. And then why do things happen the way that they do? And again, y'all, this is profound. Matt Kahn, special offer, 2 payment option, $97. I hope you all take advantage of it, truly. Amazing. And we're going to run today's call as a replay for the rest of the week. So you can always access replays on beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. But we'll send that an email with the replay link as well, so that you'll have access to be able to come back, because there's so much just beauty and heart expansion that's being shared on today's call. And I'd love for y'all to drop back in and just soak in a little bit more of the sweet nectar of release and surrender that Matt's bringing through for all of us. Matt, I'm guided to take one more live call. Are you up for it?
Let's do it.
Brent, you've been calling me so loudly. It's like there's something that I feel that you're here to share with all of us. So if you don't mind unmuting, it's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and my unconditional love and appreciation to everyone here in this co-creation. Matt, you're my hero. You're my favorite superhero. And this is a dream come true to be talking with you right now. Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to meet you. You're my hero.
Thank you. My question is, please, and this is amazing because I'm getting ready to start my own business as a
Mm,
channel and a healer, and I would love an offering from you because I appreciate what you said earlier about being on a ship because I'm wanting to represent myself as having a connection with my extraterrestrial counterpart who I channel. And the other day, I had a client who was actually telling me that they wanted to kill someone.
mhm,
So I used your supportive words of reverence that I'm here with you.
mhm.
And it kind of, I guess it kind of made me doubt myself that I'm ready for this. But then, and I'm so appreciative to be talking to you because yesterday I was actually sitting in front of Abraham. I was the front seat and I didn't get called, but every answer that they were giving to the person, I knew what they were going to say before they said it.
Yeah,
And if I could just have an offering from you, please. Thank
of
you.
course. And what's your first name again?
Brent,
Hello, Brent. It's an honor to meet you. And here's
honored to
what,
be here with you.
here's what I'll share with you. So in the beginning of my career, I was working on myself relentlessly because I wanted to be the clearest channel that I can be for all the people that I'm serving, like you and everyone else. And it was a beautiful aspiration in the beginning. You know, I want to be the clearest intuitive, want to be the clearest transmitter. Yeah, that's all very nice. And at a certain point, I became like a classic car that I worked on in my garage that I never took out for a spin.
Mm,
And that what happened in my life is that in the beginning of my healing journey, my preparation, and again, my preparation for the work that I do was meaningful, but overlaid on top of it was a perfectionist. What was the identity of a perfectionist? And that I was actually making my service to humanity subtly about my need to be seen and heard, which isn't a bad thing. It's just I had to kind of sort some things out. And here's what really connected with me and what got me out into the world as a healer and a channel. Because there's a certain amount of preparation you can do, but you can't prepare fully in the privacy of your home. You have to kind of get out into the field and work with people. And you have to put yourself in a position where your gifts activate. So you put yourself in front of people, and that's what literally activates the pressure of things to fully activate within you. But what got me over myself, and this is just something I'm guided to share, was I started to interrupt the conversation of what little thing wasn't perfect, or this could be more perfect, or this could be more dialed in. And what I became aware of was how much more profoundly the world is suffering while I'm trying to dial in and tweak some dials. And that if my inspiration is service, right? If you are here to live a life of service, where there are hungry people, we feed them. So as healers, as channels, as light workers, the focus is on how incredibly people are suffering. We have that intention. We enter into each session with that awareness so that we are focusing on service and not kind of getting lost in any kind of performance anxiety or watching and judging ourselves while we're in the moment. So for me, focusing on service and knowing how much more deeply people are suffering, and that even though I'm trying to tweak in all these little nuances, what people really need is love, help, and support. And it's the awareness of how deeply people are hurting and suffering that actually pulls us into the necessity of service that helps us to live this purpose fully and with more enjoyment and less overwhelm. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. And if and I'm so appreciative to be
Yeah.
asking you this. If I
Yeah.
could have an offering, please, because someone had actually asked Abraham, about being a teacher, and Abraham was like, "Well, when you know," and I know this, and you've shared this in your
Yeah.
teachings, when someone doesn't need you because they have their own connection to
Of
source,
course, of course.
then that's when you're ready to teach. But she did make like a joke about Esther feeling like a freak, and I know that once I like come out as, communicating with aliens, staying centered in my passion to help others rather than worrying what people think about me, please.
Right. Yeah, of course. Try this out loud. I accept my invitation
I accept my invitation
to help others heal,
to help others heal,
to be embodiment of light,
to the embodiment of light,
and to recognize that I am the most uncomfortable with my offerings
that I am the most uncomfortable with my offerings
when I try to exclude my ego.
when I try to exclude my ego.
May my ego be another channel
May my ego be another channel
through which my wisdom and energy is channeled,
through which my wisdom and energy is channeled,
so that as it plays a role in my journey
so that as it plays a role in my journey
and in the healing of others,
and in the healing of others,
my ego stops micromanaging itself through me
my ego stops micromanaging itself through me
and integrates back into the light
and integrates back into the light
by serving a pivotal purpose in my channeling.
by serving a pivotal purpose in my channeling.
I make peace with my ego.
I make peace with my ego.
I allow it to be part of the process,
I allow it to be part of the process,
knowing when I invite it to be a part of its deepest process,
knowing when I invite it to be a part of its deepest process,
it becomes a reflection of my consciousness
it becomes a reflection of my consciousness
instead of an echo of my conditioning.
instead of an echo of my conditioning.
And so I'm free.
And so I am free.
How does that feel?
Amazing.
Whole.
Oh,
So we only get a little weird about what we're going to do when we set the ego aside for something bigger to come through. And what we need to do is let the ego be a part of it.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so it just here's a reflection about my career. So, I've been channeling for many years. And I didn't try to do it this way. I just started kind of being as funny as I am off stage. I started doing it on stage somehow. I don't know when it started. And people started really resonating with it. And what's amazing is I never did any of this on purpose. I've been growing organically on my journey with everyone. And that's part of the beauty of my journey is I haven't learned about it. So I don't, I'm not looking for certain things or avoiding certain things. I'm literally just meeting the moment and learning as I go along. But when I was on my journey and I allowed my ego to be a part of it, and I allowed all of myself to be expressed. And one of the ways I did it was being funny on stage spontaneously. The more I would bring all of myself to the transmission, the more the response I got from people, it was always incredible, but it became monumentally incredible. And what I learned from this is that sometimes there can be stages of purification, and that's important. But then there's this stage where we bring it all together. And so I think that if there's ever a time where you're just not sure, the question you have to ask yourself is this an opportunity for me to bring even more of myself into this? And that'll keep it very clear. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And here's something else I would challenge for you to think about. Okay, there are people you're here to heal and help, right? There are people that if you say, I'm channeling aliens, but they're cool and they're here to help, right? Some people will be like, okay, maybe. Some people may not. So the question is, what if the channeling was focusing not on the name of the being you were channeling, but the vibration you were bringing to people as a result? Would that make it less Star Wars convention? Would it make it less esoteric in nature? And would it make it more universal in nature? Because if you're a baker and if you're baking brownies that are the best brownies anyone's ever had, that is going to change the life of someone the minute they eat them, then we have to think, what are we going to do to attract these people? If we say, hey, these brownies are so good because they're channeled by aliens and made in spaceships by little green men, people are like, maybe one day I'll get one of those brownies, maybe not. But if you say, hey, the reason why these are so incredible is because they are channeled from the vibration of whatever, I just think that the vibration or the effect of what the energy will do in the life of someone is far more universal than getting into a conversation about what people think is or isn't real. And I say that as someone who's a part of the Galactic Council and channels these guides all the time. But I'm aware of the fact of the way I speak about it actually either creates more of an open container of healing or more of a closed container. And what I'll just share with you from my experience is that even though I'm channeling the Galactic Council, when I talk overtly about the Galactic Council, we get into these very Star Wars, Star Trek-like conversations about, hey, Matt, have you ever been with the Galactic Council and then someone had to excuse themselves and go to the bathroom? Are there bathrooms on spaceships? And it's a fine conversation, but we're getting away from the really deep subject matter. And so for me, I've always framed my work as to what is it, or how can I present this in a way that focuses the importance on the healing. And I don't want anything that I present to get in the way of what I can do to help someone heal. So what I would think of is like, hey, if you want to say I'm channeling this, totally cool. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you are willing to come out in the world and say, hey, here's just what the truth is. Think what you may, here's my truth. If that's what's arising for you, that's great. But if there's a part of you that's not sure, the question becomes, what is a way I can present this in a way where what I'm channeling is more about the effect people receive from me, instead of getting into these weird conversations about what is and what isn't. Does that make sense?
No, thank you. And that's such a gift to me, because it was like I actually found myself moving the pictures that I found that I drew of my guides like further and further back on my website.
Yeah.
But what came to it was like, I want to, as you do, just kind of represent that, like, I found self-love because of their energy, and
Sure.
just kind of leave it at that, and then just share the gifts that I have because of their teachings and their energy.
Yeah. And even if you said, I channel the light of divine wisdom, or I channel the energy of divine wisdom, I mean, everyone's got different definitions for the world, word aliens or extraterrestrials, all the different ways we can talk about it. And, like I said, I've experienced otherworldly phenomenon, as I call them, interstellar beings. That's a technical term. When I'm talking with the Galactic Council, they refer to it as interstellar for whatever reason. So it makes me feel like I'm in this weird briefing meeting. And when you're in these spaceships, and I've literally been face to face with Kuan Yin, I've met Kali. I mean, it's outrageous when you go, oh, these beings are actually real. Like, they're all real. All Hindu gods are real, right? I wasn't on ayahuasca, wasn't running around and barfing in the woods, like, for real. And I think we just have to think about, okay, what is the way that everyone who is ready to heal is going to resonate with my work? You're still telling the truth. I just think it's a matter of, what is the way in which you're the most excited to present it? So it doesn't have to be this like extraneous, I've got to get over myself and I've got to speak the truth and I've got to be this person. Whereas you can just say, okay, I'm channeling the truth. And in what way am I going to make the truth the most palatable for the world we still live in? And I think it's an interesting thing to think about.
Beautiful, Brent. Brent, come back and listen to the replay. There's such profound wisdom here.
And thank you so much, Brent. And congratulations on being a world-class channeler and teacher. And congratulations on helping so many people and having an incredible life. And just thank you for your service.
This is my dream come true, to be able to talk to you. And I know this is a sign that I was looking for, that I'm ready. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you, brother.
Too. I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brent, I want to share something with you, Matt. And you may know this, and I'm not a big Course in Miracles follower, but there's so much wisdom in it. And this passage, when I started the show 10 years ago, really allowed me to expand into just relaxing, even on stage. It's like my presence on stage went to a whole nother level because I surrendered into this.
Yeah.
I'm here to be of service. I am here to represent He who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me.
Mm-hmm.
And find that passage and pull it up and let it flow through you. It's like, it's coming through you. You're representing this divinity, this love, and the intention that you hold with it. And to not only accept yourself and embodied more layers of yourself as this profound truth that you speak, then you'll be not only of greater service to yourself in the intimacy and expansion of you, but you offer that in the beautiful awareness and embodiment, like Matt is emphasizing and displaying on this call today. You become that which becomes the doorway and the key for that which we are looking to embody within ourselves.
Yeah.
So blessings
Thank you.
to
I
you.
really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Surrender it
You're
into it.
welcome.
Ah, so wonderful.
And I will tell you, just for everyone on the call, because we have more than one healer on the call, I mean, Brent, world-class channeler, of course, you know, famous, has changed the lives of millions of people. We're all now manifesting this for Brent. And there's so many other healers on this call, and people that are light workers, whether playing the role of a parent or a school teacher or an executive or a spouse or a parent. One of the things that I did early in my career, because I was trained spontaneously by the universe, is when I would do a healing on someone and there wouldn't be much feedback at the end. Maybe they're in process, or maybe they're just not used to using their words in an affirmative and praising way. What I would do after every session, especially when someone would just kind of not give a lot of feedback or be in their own process, what I would say to myself is, thank you. Thank you for helping to make my offerings more pure. That I was trained how to transmit without feedback of any kind. That you literally just step into a moment, you serve with every fiber of your being. And if there's feedback of how amazing it is, humbly thank you. And if there's no feedback, thank you for making my offering even more unconditional. Thank you for buffering out of me any part of me looking for that acknowledgement. Thank you for helping me as I'm here to help you. For me, that was everything.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. All right. Well, as we wind up today, I want to remind you of the special offer, beyondordinaryshow.com/Matt29. The link's in the chat box, copy and paste it, click on it now. Yes. The replay, we'll send an email for it in a little bit. And Matt, I'm going to give you some feedback.
Oh, good. Give me some feedback.
I'm going to give you some feedback. As you speak of this awareness in this conversation of Melchizedek that you had. Yeah. And I can tell you, I'm in the simultaneous expression, and how beautiful for me to, as a brother, and as this heart expansion that I feel when we're on calls together, how I will miss the opportunity and the reminder of what's possible in that. Yeah. Tremendously. Yeah. But simultaneously, how grateful I am for this moment right here, right now. Thank you. And how I want to feed that in the present moment for all of us. So thank you for your love, for what you do, and just this light that you remind us that we all are. Thank you. I want to make this next 3 years of my life the most extraordinary 3 years of my offerings. It's because I love what I do. I love who I am, but I love what I do. And I have so much I want to give and I want to share. And I'm going to do it over the next 3 years. And if I'm blessed to be given more time on this planet, then my offerings will just go to the next level. But the next 3 years are going to be very exciting. And it's one where I invite all of us together, as we come together to die just a little bit more. We give ourselves permission to live a little bit more. And I like to think on this call, we've all been given a healthy dose of permission to live at a far deeper level. And I'm grateful to you, John. I'm grateful for everything we've ever had together. Yeah. And every time we meet, I'm like a new version of myself. So it's always like a new incarnation, but I treasure you. I treasure everyone on this call and around the world. And I want to thank you for assisting, like everyone. Thank you all for assisting and making my life so meaningful, as I have the honor of bringing such meaningfulness into everyone's life. Beautiful. Namaste, brother. Namaste, everybody on this call. Thank you. I'll see y'all on the next one. Have a fantastic moment. Have a fantastic moment. Beautiful. Bye, y'all.